Welcome to the Blessors of Israel podcast. I'm Matthew Dodd, Executive Director of Blessors of Israel. Honored once again to begin the new year with Pastor Rich Jones, the founder and chairman of Blessors of Israel. Well, 2025 ended with a bang, and 2026 is promising to be quite the year, to say the least, beginning with Venezuela. Now, you might be wondering, why are we talking about Venezuela? But there is a connection, I think, that we need to discuss when we then move on to Iran, for instance, and what's going on in the Middle East.
Well, let's first start by acknowledging that Maduro was a narco-terrorist, right? And that needed to be done. What's interesting is that then the remaining regime blames Israel. I thought is that amazing?
That was interesting. But when in doubt, you always blame Israel, correct?
It's the go-to.
We're seeing that all the time.
Yes, but I mean, they were like trying to be convincing Israel is behind this.
I mean, just ask Tucker Carlson.
Oh, you have to bring that in, do you? Oh, you're full of surprises.
Here we go.
But then we got to see it's earth shaking. It's an earthquake, really. It sends shockwaves throughout the world, right? Because now they realize what America can do is quite capable of some amazing things.
I saw a recording, I think it was on X, of a congressman who had just been briefed by the intelligence agency about what transpired. And he says, I've been in hundreds of these things. I've never seen a briefing like this before in my life. Other ones will put you to sleep. What they did there in Venezuela and how they laid out the details, the timeline, he said, I've never seen anything like this. And this is a man who served in the armed forces.
Really?
Yeah.
It clearly was surgical. It was impactful. As I said, it sent shockwaves to the world because now regimes like Iran, let's go to Iran, they have to calibrate.
Exactly.
Like, this could happen, right? This is amazing. We have to be prepared for anything. Now, look what's happening in Iran, because it's all connected. All these dots are connected. And the you might call it the revolution, the protests that are happening in Iran are very, very significant and different than what we've seen in many years.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. In fact, there was an article, perhaps you saw it in Breitbart, in regards to an interview with a 30-year-old law school student going to law school there in Tehran. And she talked about how things are different now, how this young generation is tired of the oppressive grip of the Ayatollah and the mullahs and what has it done to Iran, how they don't want to blame the United States or Israel. No, this is what they've done to themselves, and it's time for that oppressive grip to be thrown off so that they can have the freedoms that they want to enjoy. And she went on to say, willing to do whatever it takes to do, to even if she loses her life, just so that they can experience the freedom, because they can go back on the internet and see what life was like. Even though times are difficult with the Shah, but comparatively speaking, what we have right now, I mean, you have the power's unreliable, lights don't come on,
well, this is
water. I mean, the rial is in the dumps when it comes to their currency. I mean, things are falling apart.
No, see, that's important to recognize. It's not just a matter of a regime that's oppressive. No, the economics there are devastating. It's not a matter of living. It's a matter of just surviving.
Yes.
And bread. Bakers are selling parts of loaves because people can't afford a full loaf of bread.
It really breaks your heart when you read what these people are going through.
Right. And the water. And we've been reading about water scarcity in Iran. You can't get water. You can't get bread.
They were going to move the capital.
Right.
Just so they can get water.
You can't get, the basic necessities, rice. I mean, just the basic necessities. So, of course, the momentum is shifting because people are tired of it. We have to change this regime. And this might be the one.
Well, it really is interesting because even the president is saying to the police, we don't use force, listen, hear what they have to say. I mean, this is very fascinating. We've never seen that kind of posture before.
Let me bring this in, though. Partly, I believe, that's because President Trump has said, if you start killing protesters, we're going to come in hard on this regime, right? So now, the thing about it, the way that President Trump approaches, diplomacy, like they believe it, right? When he says, you do that, we're going to do this. It's not bluff.
Well, and I think we need to go back a step and see what happened when the United States engaged with Israel and struck the nuclear sites in Iran last, May? That set the stage. I think, when you're dealing with the United States, there's always that posturing, here's my red line. And now people are beginning to realize when he says something, they mean it. And typically it's preceded by, let's negotiate. Here, I'm going to give you a graceful way out. Here's your exit strategy. Here's your way to work with us so that we can ensure peace in the Middle East or even in South America. And then there is that red line that finally is drawn. Enough is enough, like it happened with Maduro. Okay, I guess he was begging and pleading. Okay, I'll play nice now. And Trump says, no, enough is enough.
Now, what's interesting is that the Iranian foreign minister is taking a very different stance. Now he's saying, we are prepared to negotiate. Let's negotiate. Now he's, of course, rattling the saber and saying, we're ready for war, but we want to negotiate. This is all because of the stance that America has had, as you just mentioned.
Last week, though, they were saying we're ready for a preemptive strike. We will do a preemptive strike. But how well did the preemptive strike work for them last time?
Well, this is my point. He comes out and proclaims that Iran was victorious.
Exactly.
In that 12-day war last June, actually it was. And what's interesting was he says, and if they repeat it. Okay, this is funny. If they repeat it, they're going to face the same results. Okay, let's face the same results.
Exactly.
It was devastating for Iran. But my whole point, though, is that it has changed their stance. Now the president is saying, look, careful with these protesters. The foreign minister, let's negotiate. And many of the senior officials in Iran are seeking visas to go to France.
Isn't that interesting? Back channels seeking visas. Hey, if this goes bad, we need an exit strategy here. So we're going to appeal to France.
Right, and I was reading that Khomeini himself is talking about getting a visa to go to Russia. They are very seriously concerned that this might be the end.
And one more thing that's interesting is now typically you'll have that posturing, and that, the bravado. We are strong. We have the resolve. We're able to overcome whatever's going to happen.
Right.
But then you even have the Ayatollah Khamenei. He comes out and says, you know what, things have been difficult. The president comes out, Pezeshkian. Yes, we are going through difficult times. You'd never hear that type of admission before, and now they're all beginning to acknowledge, as they're contacting France, hey, things aren't what we have presented them to be in the past. We are struggling. They're also putting to death people who are supposedly spies for the Mossad. They've been doing that. Elevated rates like never before of them putting to death people that they consider spies as well. So very interesting dynamics. Now, how does that impact Israel, though? What are your thoughts in regards to Israel? Should they just kind of watch and let things just kind of self-destruct, or you have these invitations, these pleas from the protesters, come, we're doing this because you said you have our backs. The United States said you have our backs. Well, now we're doing this. Are you going to come in and help, or are you just going to wait till the mess is all made and then clean up afterwards?
Well, firstly, the way that America typically operates is let's say through the back door. And what I mean by that is, you know for sure that the CIA is operating inside of Iran.
Same with Israel.
Is right,
Yeah.
Mossad.
Yeah.
And so you know that they are encouraging, that they are supporting and providing for the opposition. So they are involved. And so this is critical. And interestingly, one of the first things that I think Iran does when they're getting ready to really clamp down hard is to shut down the internet.
And they did that.
And they did that. So I think they
and phone lines too.
It's coming down to it. Now, that doesn't mean the CIA and Mossad is not there. No, they're there, and they are under the cover of how would you say it? Non-diplomatic
dark
sources.
ops.
Dark ops. You know, but you know they're there. And so, how does Israel respond? That way.
Just keep pressing.
They've always been there. They've always pressed hard. They've always pressed hard. But I think Israel has to be very careful now because, you know, Israel in this whole conflict with Gaza has lost a lot of support worldwide.
It's true.
And now, of course, they're trying their best to get it back step by step by step. And now is not the time to make another big, bold adventure.
I agree with you. And I think, you know, even when it came to the United States joining Israel in the strike against Iran,
right,
we saw here in the United States a shift, I think, within the conservative side of things and even within the Christian church in regards to, hey, well, we want to support the Jews, but we do not support what Israel's doing right now.
Yeah.
And it's become very polarized.
And so Israel understands this, and Israel is trying to win back some credibility, you might say, some support. For example, and you and I were part of this.
Yeah.
There was recently 1,000 pastors that went to Israel to really make a statement of solidarity. But in many ways, it was supported by the state of Israel as a way of saying, we need to take steps. We need to take steps to particularly make inroads into the young generation. We've lost the whole generation. Israel has, support-wise. And it's very concerning because what we see is it translates to anti-Semitism.
It does.
There's an increase of anti-Semitism around the world today.
And I would say my big concern, and I think Israel's concern as well, polls are showing it's the young generations, even within the church that you're mentioning,
That's right,
that are saying enough is enough. We don't, that might have been the old evangelicals, we're the new next generation evangelicals, and we do not agree. Hey, we'll support the Jews individually. We don't want anti-Semitism, but in terms of Zionism, supporting the state of Israel, there's this disconnect now. And so their Christianity is no longer informing their view with regards to Israel.
No, because I think what happened was they saw that when they saw his devastation, right? That Israel went too far. This is the mantra of the day.
That's the narrative that's won the day.
Right. Israel went too far. I mean, you can see images of Gaza of complete devastation.
Yeah.
It looks like war,
Yeah.
which it was. But the extent of it and the amount of homes, hospitals, schools, businesses, all destroyed, and lives lost by the tens of thousands. Again, this is why they lost the support. Now, what's Israel's answer to that? We put this at the foot of Hamas, right? They're the ones that embedded themselves in that population, and they did it on purpose. They put themselves in hospitals, in schools, in situations where they know that there will be families and children, and they've embedded themselves in it. They make human shields out of it, right? And Israel is determined to get that enemy, Hamas, out of Gaza.
And by the way, you got to remember Yahya Sinwar. That was his goal. It was a stated goal. Hey, we will use the Palestinians as the human shields to achieve our ultimate goal, which is
necessary sacrifice.
Absolutely, and they will be rewarded for that sacrifice, and so therefore it's okay. But they use that narrative knowing it would work globally, and it did.
And so, how does that translate? It translates into Israel has lost a lot of support worldwide, and that translates into anti-Semitism, like we saw in Australia recently. That was all about anti-Semitic attack.
Exactly.
And you see this happening in so many places around the world, of course, because it's rising tide everywhere in the world. And so this is part of, again, I believe there's a biblical stance in this. It's setting up
I agree.
the latter days.
Yeah, I think that, you're going to see, biblically speaking, and we've talked about this before.
Sure.
As we get closer to the return of Jesus Christ, there will be a rise in the spreading of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Sure.
There will also be a rise of apostasy. And there will be a rise in anti-Semitism. And all three of those ingredients, I think we see really happening right now. It's setting the stage for the return of Jesus Christ.
It's setting the stage for the latter days. And of course, it's setting the stage for an Antichrist to appear on the scene. And he will make a covenant between the nations of the world and Israel. Now, that speaks to the nations of the world are against Israel. And
exactly.
Right. And so then the Antichrist comes in to negotiate this peace between the nations and Israel, because they're all against Israel.
And I'm glad you said that, because often we just think in terms of, well, it would just be those within the Middle East. But no. When you look at the UN vote, it really, if it weren't for the United States and a few other very minor actors, but really the United States.
That's right.
If that were to ever shift,
that's right.
And we're literally one election away from that happening,
That's
one
true.
Presidential election happening.
And when you say the United States, I say, and the United States support predominantly is because of the church, right? The influence of the church inside the United States. And so what are we seeing right now? We're seeing an erosion of support for Israel in the church today. So that's going to translate eventually into the United States being less and less and less of a supporter.
And you laughed earlier when I brought up Tucker, and even now Megyn Kelly. Years ago, they were very pro-Israel. They claim to be Christians. I don't judge that, though I think their language at times leaves something to be desired, but that is what it is. That said, now they both blame the hatred towards the Muslims on the Jews. So again, it all comes down to this idea of, if there's a problem, blame it on the Jews. We're seeing this over and over again, and it does spread. The tentacles are spreading, and it's having an impact within the church.
So we have to keep watching this, because this trend is a dangerous trend, but it's also biblical. I mean, we see it's setting the stage for what the biblical prophetic view is, that the nations will be against Israel. There will be an Antichrist that arises and is needed to bring a covenant of peace, because the nations stand against Israel. And the weaker the United States gets, the greater that stance will be internationally against Israel.
Yeah, now speaking of peace, as we're getting ready to wrap up here, President Trump's administration announced that they, I think next week, are going to be talking about who will be part of that
thank you.
peace coalition there for Gaza.
Right.
And two concerning elements are both Qatar and Turkey.
Well, let's go back one step. I think the point there is that the United States coalition is trying to build, let's call it a board, a board
of peace. They're calling it. Yep.
And so now you're talking about, who are they inviting to be part of this board of peace? And it'll be interesting to see who ends up being the leader of this so-called board of peace. But you're bringing up Qatar.
Well, Qatar and Turkey. Israel, rightly so, because of Erdogan and his statements all along against Israel, even though they've done business over the years so strong. Here he'll invite delegations of Hamas there to Turkey. I mean, an ardent supporter of Hamas.
Well, Erdogan, president of Turkey, has stated, well, we'll put our soldiers in Gaza.
Yeah.
Israel says, absolutely no way.
Non-starter.
Non-starter.
So that's one thing that's concerned. But then you have Qatar. It came out today. The Department of Education says the one country that basically is spending more money in U.S. colleges, influencing those colleges, is
Qatar.
$6.6 billion.
Is this the same Qatar that hosted the leadership of Hamas?
Exactly
and has been harboring them all of these years? And we're going to put them on the board of peace. there's a very concerning...
It is a concern. And so that's why we want to call balls and strikes fairly. There are things that we applaud the Trump administration is doing, but at the same time, we need to hopefully help them open their eyes. They need to see, hey, there's always strings attached when money is involved.
Now, at the same time, I understand why. They're trying to build a broad coalition.
I agree.
They're trying to show...
But that doesn't change them fundamentally, though.
No, I agree.
Their view is still anti-Israel.
Absolutely.
And they're part of creating the crisis so that they can come in and make it look like they're helping to solve the crisis.
Right. But your concern is valid, and we will watch this board. Of course, it's still in formation stage. We will watch it. And then what plan will they come up with in regards to how to enforce the peace ceasefire?
Exactly.
Because Hamas is clearly saying they're not laying down their arms.
Not at all.
Right. So where is this going to go?
In fact, when Netanyahu was visiting President Trump right before New Year's and during New Year's, he provided information in regards to, the strength of Hamas, the weapons that Hamas still has in their possession.
Right.
And so it is not going to be easy. It's going to be, and that's why you have places like Azerbaijan that are saying, we will not be part of the peace force. We will not. Yeah, these countries are not going to get involved. And it's going to be very difficult, I think, to recruit countries to be involved until those arms are done.
Although there are some countries that are like volunteering. You know why? Yeah. And so anyway, we will watch because the world is changing. 2025 was a monumental year.
It really was.
2026.
Boy, it started strong.
Exactly.
Right out of the gate. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Pastor Rich. And I want to thank you as well for joining us today. By the way, if you are watching for the very first time, I want to encourage you to learn more about Blessors of Israel by going to our website. You can do so by going to www.blessors.org. That's Blessors with an ors.org. There, visit our homepage. Also, make sure you visit our newsroom. When you do so, we want you to learn about our vision and our mission as an organization. We believe God has raised us up for such a time as this to help inform the church about the importance of standing with Israel in the latter days. In the newsroom, you'll see curated news concerning Israel and the Middle East, along with original articles with a biblical perspective. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like this podcast, subscribe to whatever channel you're viewing. Make sure you also share about Blessors of Israel with your family, your friends, people you go to church with, so that more can be informed about the importance of standing with Israel in the latter days. You can follow us on Facebook, X, and Getter. And we appreciate your prayers and your financial partnership as we build this new and very important ministry. Remember, those who bless Israel will be blessed. Shalom, shalom.